Welcome to Parks and Cons, companion podcast, the parksandcons.com website and YouTube channel. We discuss cons, theme parks, collecting, and other fun stuff. It's March 27, 2022. I'm your host, Sean. I'm here with Carmel.
Hi there.
Parks and Cons, your on-the-spot podcast. We take the heart of the action, best conventions and themed entertainment events around. Today we are recording at the Living Desert. We're here for opening night of Glow in the Park, and it has been absolutely fantastic, and so we'll talk about that in a minute, or in a few minutes as we get to that second in this podcast.
And Living Desert is in Palm Desert, I believe.
Palm Desert, yep. So. But before we talk Living Desert, let's flash back to last week, and this was an event we weren't able to record at, but the time was packed, and it was actually a blast as well. This was Spooksieboo's latest event, and I think it's really one of my favorite. This is the second time we've experienced one of their Ghouls Day Out events, and it really is.
I think the last one was Ghouls Night Out.
Ghouls Night Out, yeah, with the Sanctuary experience. It's really just a blast. I mean, everything that they do in terms of these various shows that they put on throughout the year has been a lot of fun, and we've talked to them a lot of times on the podcast and the vidcast and all of that. But this one, having added in the Sanctuary experience, which we'll talk about, is particularly a good one. So it was on March 19th at the Emmanuel Church in L.A., and this church actually is the scene from My Chemical Romance where they filmed the Helena music video. So a really big deal for MCR fans, for sure. In fact, one of the guests they had was the official demolition groom from the Life on the Murder Scene album. So they really leaned into the My Chemical Romance side of things there, which was great. But the event itself had two parts to it, as did the Ghouls Night Out, had kind of a link there as well. But Ghouls Day Out, you had the Sanctuary experience, which was $20 per person to be able to go inside the church and do the various photo ops, the scares, the all sorts of stuff we'll talk about in a moment. And then you also additionally, though, had the outdoor market section, the Ghouls Market. And so maybe let's talk about the Ghouls Market first, because that was the free for everyone part. The other part, we were there as media, so we didn't have to pay the $20, which we were grateful for and got to experience all of it. But I do think it was definitely worth the price, but we'll get to that in a moment. So in the outside there, they had a bunch of vendors there. They really was an outdoor show there. Midsummer Scream was there selling tickets, all sorts of T-shirts. The Horror Dude was there, lots of
crafts and candles, and I believe there were food goodies. There were, I think, pet attire.
Yeah.
All sorts of really fun, spooky themed sorts of things. But yeah, just really a lot more vendors than I was kind of expecting. It was basically, I guess it was a parking lot, I think.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it wasn't packed in the sense that it was crowded and uncomfortable, but packed in that they used the space very well and put a lot of vendors in there, which was cool.
Yeah, I want to say there was 4 or 5 rows there that maybe had about 8-ish on each side as you go up and down the rows there. We saw some cosplay in there, saw a great Reagan from The Exorcist in there, from Scream, the Ghostface Killer, and just a bunch of really fun booths to look at, just the visuals of them, the T-shirts, and I'm always a sucker for looking at all of those things. Ended up buying an Elvira T-shirt there, and it was just neat to see. The thing about this show is it just felt, whether you were outside, and then particularly when we talk about the Sanctuary experience in the inside, it really felt like it was a Halloween gathering. It really felt like you were with, they're with our people. And I know with the variety of things we cover, we have a lot of like our people type moments or whatever, but this is definitely like our people. You see everybody in their black shirts there, and all their horror stuff all out and stuff, and you're like, yep, this is our place to be. And so there's a My Chemical Romance, one of the drummer, the cosplayer, but drummer out there drumming away as well, and it was just a fantastically fun area.
He was really impressive drummer. Yeah. I don't know who it was, but he was full on playing his drum. I think you caught that on video.
Yeah, I think he put it on TikTok and stuff too.
And he was really impressive drummer, so that was really cool too.
Yeah, and if you are watching the vidcast version, you're seeing a lot of the vendors and stuff in the background as we're talking about some of these things here. Okay, so now let's go to the inside. So the Sanctuary experience said that was now a $20 charge, and again, we had press for that. So one of the things that's really neat, you get your lanyard, and you are not entering, you're not just walking into the sanctuary. They kind of set the mood, and so you wait at the gates. And I mean, this church is so huge, and it's been used as a filming location for a lot of places. I'm not really sure all the church. I want to say It was built in the late 1800s or something like that. I looked this up at one point, but it seems to have been a spot that's used for filming for a lot of church scenes throughout, TV and film history, and obviously My Chemical Romance using it for videos. But you wait there, and then you're greeted, and in our case, we were greeted by Victoria Venin, who was one of the talented cosplayers there and talented dressmakers and fashionistas that was at the event. And so she kind of brought us into the event and kind of walked us down the long, ominous hallway and told us, that we're about to go into the experience, and kind of gave us that greeting.
She looked beautiful in the attire that she was wearing, and I snapped a picture of her, and because it was just this incredible makeup and the outfit and stuff. Basically, we were free to take pictures and stuff, but once we exited, we were done. So you could stay there. She said you could stay there all night long, but once you left, you were exiting the sanctuary experience, and so you weren't able to go back and forth and stuff. That was kind of a cool way to
really cool.
Be introduced to the event.
And she was dressed as Elena, again, from the, all this tie into My Chemical Romance this time, and really kind of leaning into that, which was very cool. And then you just immediately have these different kind of corridors and scenes. There's one room it's really dark with spooky skeletons and candles lit in there, which are just, photogenic on their own there as backdrops. You have art installations in there from, as referenced before, the horror dude was there, which always, I feel like we see him at every kind of spooky con these days with some great exhibits out there. But so he had an art installation there. You've got the Jim McKenzie, and then Jake Sculpts all had different types of photo ops, art installations, all of it again very photogenic, very the entire event and the inside really built for like an Instagrammer's dream in terms of places to take photos and video and snippets and things like that, TikTok of course, etc. The walkway, my favorite part, is just the long corridor hallways that are just, spooky on their own. And then they had a variety of scare actors there. And it said the jump scares were by Tormented Society. That's Tormented_Society on Instagram. So they actually were, I guess, group that was there, but they were fantastic. There was a female on stilts that actually was awesome, came flying down the hall. But I think we came across 4 actors, and all were total pros. They knew how to, come at you. They knew how to wait, come at you, give the dive, and they weren't, going to bounce into anybody or trip anybody or anything like that. But they knew how to scare very well. You could tell these are people with a lot of experience, and it just felt so Halloween. It felt so Halloween to go down these halls and have that. And you could just do that, as you said, all day. Like if you wanted to just keep going up and down the hall and getting scared, we got some great video of them. Some for the Instagram and TikTok and stuff, but also just for the YouTube and all of those things. But just over and over, kind of kept going down and having them give us that scare again, and all of that I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, and we've talked about it when we were discussing haunts and stuff that we're going through, and you do really love the long hallways where that there's some doom at the end or something's going to jump out at some point, and so that was quite the haunt fix for you, because that is maybe one of your favorite effects or uses of hallways or something like that in a haunt in general.
Yeah, I love the long hallways, and particularly when you see that actor and that they're gonna you're gonna cross them, because there's a long runway for them to do their thing, and so I love watching them work. So one of the times was he kind of had a jester kind of clown type look to him, and he just was kind of performing for the camera, just with all of his contorting of his body and stuff, and then ultimately coming right up and snarling into the camera there. So that was a lot of fun. You come to the end, and then you do have those art installations there, some beautiful stained glass windows to take photos in front of, a big organ there. Then there's I think the big thing for a lot of people is the actual church setup itself of the pews and the stand to speak and all of that for photos. Yeah,
and there's the main, I guess, church part, but also even before that there's kind of that chapel off to the side.
True, yep.
Which I think does have an organ in the front. I'm not sure if that's one that you're referring to or if it was a smaller one. But yeah, it's kind of this cool little side chapel, kind of. I don't remember exactly what that room, if it was called anything specific, but even that, was really cool for photo ops and stuff. And again, had the windows and had some decor and some spider webs and things, and just really, yeah, very thematic, very photogenic, very cool kind of side room, and that would be pretty cool in and of itself. But then, yeah, you go into the main, I guess, church part, and it's massive. It's a big,
massive,
room or whatever you want to call it.
And they have the lectern to take photos at, and all sorts of stuff. And again, I mean, you're like.
And the coffin.
In the coffin, yeah, you're really like on this big, massive movie set that they're utilizing for you to do all of these different types of photos and stuff. And so,
yeah, and you can take numerous photos. You can go back and forth. They did have I think it was a volunteer or an employee who was down there who could take the photos for you if you wanted. But lots of people were just in general like very friendly about. Like someone offered to take our photos because we took our photos separately in that room. At the pulpit podium thing, and but someone had asked if we wanted to picture together. They would have taken it. So people were just very friendly and stuff. It was very welcoming environment and stuff. And yeah, all those photos and stuff, you can just do it on your phone, so that it's not an upcharge beyond obviously the $20 to get into the experience. But you could spend, as we've said, hours in there and take whatever photos you want. And yeah, it was really, an interesting, very cool setup in there.
Yeah, it was the biggest dose of Halloween I've had in a good while, and I don't know when the last thing outside of obviously Halloween season proper was, or what there's been, but this was a good one. And it really, it makes me interested to see what else they'll do. We've seen the Spooksieboo crew do just so many, incredible things that began with just, doing the awesome artwork and all that they do with that, but then, spinning it into all these different types of shows, and now you have something like this that was like, it had these haunt type elements, and it's like, I'd love to see them do, more haunt type stuff throughout the year, whatever it might be. But we've said it before, whatever they're doing, we're into. Really like the way that they run their shows. It's a really great model, and it seems that they've got a lot of support from the community because they have so many great vendors over and over and over again, whatever they do. So it was a fun one. So a big thanks to them for having us out, obviously, and being able to cover it and stuff. And then I think when we do the rundown at the end of the podcast, we have another one of their events coming up here in about a month or so, somewhere in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, just really fun experience, and I think ideally would have liked to have spent a bit more time there, but we had some dinner plans with some friends, and prior to that we were at Universal
getting haunt build.
Yeah, getting the haunt build stuff, and so yeah, it would have been a really cool experience if we could have taken a bit more time in there. So we were a bit rushed, but we appreciated the time that we had in there and would have liked more. But yeah, it was just a really cool environment. Like I said, welcoming, kind of chill, kind of relaxed. You could just sit, if you wanted to, in the church area or whatever. And yeah, just a really fun, cool haunt fix for March.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really been very hectic. There's been a lot of last second kind of adjustments to our schedule, and that was one where it was like we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to make it until about a day before, and it was awesome that we were able to make it. And now that kind of fits to segue to where we're at now, which is this is also something that kind of was a spur of the moment thing. But tonight it's the only thing we're covering, so it's been a little bit more of a relaxing pace. That said, there is a lot here to cover in the amount of time. So as you said, we are down in Palm Desert for the Living Desert. This is a place we visited. I mean, this used to be, to me, a really great kind of therapy stop in general. Like, it's a very kind of therapeutic habitat where you can see the animals in these open, areas, these big kind of not yards, habitats, obviously, I guess is the best word for them, but kind of see them at play. And so I've loved coming out here over the years, but honestly, we came out here a lot more before we had dogs because it was a lot easier without a pet sitter and this and that. 'Cause it's about an hour and a half drive for us from our house in that neighborhood. And so it's been actually a few years since we were here. It was a spot during the reopening last year we wanted to get out to, but just never quite fit with the schedule and stuff. And so now a year later after it's here. And one of the things I said to you about the event is, like, it feels like this is like tonight's almost like a little bit of a vacation from Parks and Con stuff, because Parks and Con stuff in general is very fun to cover this stuff, but it's also very hectic and usually
frenetic.
very competitive. Yeah, frenetic. There's not many things that we cover that just kind of have a relaxing quality to them. And then we got here to this event, and it's just, there's music playing in the various areas. You're seeing all sorts of beautiful, these giant lanterns, which I'll describe a little bit more from their release here in a second, and the animals at play and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a nice change of pace. So this event, though, it is called the Spring Lantern Festival Glow in the Park. It begins today, March 27th, which it's interesting. It's a Sunday night, which was perfect for us, but that's their opening night here. And now it runs nightly until April 29th. So this is kind of their spring festival event. It runs nightly 6:30 to 10 p.m. and they do have timed tickets. So you'll want to check into what the availability is of those. So their little kind of blurb about it: get ready for the Living Desert's brand new and larger-than-life illuminated experience. This extraordinary nighttime event will feature intricate, immersive, and truly awe-inspiring animal and naturescape lantern creations representing wild places from around the globe. Dozens of displays featuring illuminated lanterns and light displays will create unforgettable moments and experiences. Watch the desert come alive with spectacular installations that will delight guests of all ages. Explore the lighted pathways, immersive photo opportunities, and see the Living Desert in a whole new light, unlike any other light festival in Southern California. Don't miss your chance to experience Glow in the Park, a spring lantern festival. Tickets run Monday through Thursday. General admission is $20. Fridays and Sundays are $25.
Fridays through Sundays. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are $25.
And then member tickets, because they do have memberships here, they dip down. It's $17.95 Monday through Thursday and $22.95 Friday through Sunday. Children are $17 during the weekdays, $20 for the weekends, and then children under 3 are free. Now, this is in partnership with Tianyu Arts and Culture, Inc. This nightly spectacular features traditional handcrafted Chinese lanterns, engaging art, and memorable photo opportunities. So they are, contracted with this group. So they do have lights. Some of the trees and things like that just have lights. Like as we're sitting here, there's some that are, kind of like Christmas light type lights. But the vast majority of it are these incredibly beautiful lanterns, which, again, if you're watching the vidcast version of the podcast, you're seeing a lot of that hopefully there. But I mean, right away when you walk in to the left, there's this giant peacock that is automated, and so maybe on a loop of every 2 or 3 minutes, its tail feathers go up and it lights up in all these different colors, and it probably stands about, 12 or so feet tall. It's a big peacock display there. There's these oversized bees that are probably 4 or 5 feet tall that are in the trees. Butterflies the same way. Just beautiful kind of lantern after lantern. And I mean, again, when I say lantern, I know, like myself coming out here, I thought it'd be a lot of things kind of hanging from the trees and smaller things, but I mean, many of these, like the dragon, the big dragon that lit up this entire pathway was probably 25 feet tall at head, and then you were walking through with the looping tail on the pathway.
Yeah, basically by lantern, it's kind of more like fabric, like kind of thinnish fabric that is over lights, and it's in shape of all sorts of things. So it's not like if you just think a lantern, Chinese lantern that like hangs on a little, like a little light or whatever. That's definitely not all that they're displaying. It's massive displays of these animals that are, again, like some sort of framing underneath that has lights inside, and then but is covered in fabric that has kind of the lantern effect. Coming out here, it was very relaxing today and stuff. And in particular, I think one of the challenges with the Living Desert is that it is in the desert. So in the summer, it is very warm, and so it's a challenge to kind of find time to come out when it's not over 100 degrees and stuff, and especially obviously in the summertime and stuff. And so, like, one of the comments I heard someone making as we were kind of roaming around, he was like, well, at least we're not sweating to death out here today. Because it's starting at 6:30, and it's actually, I think tomorrow there's rain expected in SoCal, and so there's a really nice breeze out. But I think the low I saw for tonight was going to be like 74 or something like that. So definitely not a chilly night, but it's a very nice breeze and stuff. And yeah, just being out here has been really cool. And at that time, there's the animals were very awake and running around and stuff when we first arrived and stuff. So
yeah, and all of the animals that are parts of their habitats obviously are desert animals, so they're all animals that are from the desert that now live in this desert, and so they're all adapted to it. But just as with like when you go to Animal Kingdom at Disney World and things like that, they're all most at play at those edges of the day, either early morning or later night. So this actually worked really well. And one tip we'd have if you're coming out is to definitely book the 6:30 time slot would be, I think, our recommendation, because the event runs 6:30 to 10. We debated, we're like, well, it'll be darker around 7, maybe let's do 7, and we thought, well, let's get there 6:30 so we can get a lay of the land and get the video ready and kind of where we're going to podcast and things like that. Well, that was definitely the right play for us, because immediately as we were here, we were able to go ahead and check out some of the animals, because they do have the exhibits open, so you can basically kind of make a left to the bulk of the event, which is really where all the glow in the park stuff is. But we went to the right and got to see the rhinos out and the giraffes. I mean, the giraffes, there was, I don't know, 5, 6 of them that are just kind of like they're up on the hilltop. You're seeing them. It's like out of a movie or something. The sun's setting behind them.
Yeah, at one point they were just running around and playing and
yeah.
stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so cool to see them running together like that. Was really nice. And
the hyenas were out at play. I mean, just it was a very, it's funny because I have heard Disney movies, particularly Lion King, referenced so much tonight. Everywhere you
definitely
go, every adult and kid here is like, hey, yeah, that's like from The Lion King or things like that. But it's almost like a Disney movie in a way that all these animals seem like they were actually like a lot of people I heard them saying like, oh, they're happy to see us because they never get to see us at night normally. And it's like, well, obviously the animals are just doing what they always do at night and having a good time, but it just was fun seeing them in that way. And it was kind of like this bonus that we weren't expecting, because we were here for the lanterns and all of that, but to have that extra was really awesome.
I didn't know if we were even going to have access to the animals, or if they would have that those areas like closed off or whatever. So it was a pleasant surprise. Additionally, a pleasant surprise was that they seem to have all of their food locations open.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we've been to some nighttime events at various locations, and it's like they shut down all the food, and it's like you arrive and you're hungry and you're like, what in the world? So unfortunately, we ate dinner before we came out here, because we weren't sure what that situation was going to be, and so we got some sandwiches from Jersey Mike's, ate at home, and then headed out or whatever. But then when we were here, it's like, oh, they're actually selling food. I would have liked to have eaten here instead. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Burgers and salads, and I mean, there's a few stands there selling alcoholic beverages as well. There's cookies and cake type things. I mean, it's a pretty good variety of food at the various snack bar. I mean, it's not any sit down restaurant. They're all counter service, but there's some good, to me, stuff that I would definitely love to have some of that kind of park food.
Yeah, and each location kind of has its own kind of style of food. So over in kind of the Australia area, I looked at the menu and they were more kind of Australian themed. I don't know what the food actually was when you got it, but at least the names had kind of Australian influences on it. But then the other location just had standard burgers and stuff, and other location just had popcorn and ice cream and snacks and stuff. So but yeah, very happy that they were open and available, because we could have eaten it if we have time, although it's already kind of getting a little late for us. But we might be able to grab a snack on the way out or something like that, since we did eat on the earlier side. But yeah, that also was a pleasant surprise. So there were several things that I wasn't really kind of expecting, and they were there. So that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they really are giving everybody access to the entirety of the park. I mean, even beyond just the lit areas, which the lit areas, though, the lanterns are much more it's so much larger of an exhibit than I ever expected. I mean, because you were doing okay, let's get the 10 minutes of video or whatever it'll be to loop on the vidcast for this, and it's like, oh, this could be an hour's video. There was so much land to cover. But additionally, then areas to the left of us over here, we can walk over, and there's the camels are down that path and stuff, and that area is not lit where those animals are. I mean, it's lit normal lighting, but not with the lanterns or anything. But you go over there and there's still food available in that area. There's places to sit. There's restrooms open. So I feel like a lot of times when we've come to these after hours events, where it's a place that kind of closes in between, and something like a zoo lights, let's say at LA Zoo and stuff. A lot of areas may be closed down or they lessen.
The day entry, day ticket, or the day events or whatever closed at 5:30.
I think it said. Oh yeah, they were taking their last new ticket at 4 today. Yeah.
Okay, but the facilities I think closed at 5:30 and then reopened at 6:30 for the evening event. So yeah, I just kind of assumed that all the day stuff would be closed and we'd only have access to the lanterns, and I also thought it was just going to be going like a little small section.
Yeah,
it was
this is
much
big.
more than I was expecting in that regard as well.
Yeah, my feet, because it was a lot more walking than I was ready to do tonight, and it was a pleasant surprise. It was just so much, but it's like, oh wait, there's another corner. Now, in terms of the lanterns and kind of the display areas, I mean, you have different kinds of groupings. So like when you walk in, you've got the giant butterflies and the peacock and the bees and things like that. It's kind of almost like a Frozen type tree over here. It's kind of off to our right, or my right as we're recording this, a field of these giant, probably 4-foot tall sunflowers that are all lit up and stuff. And then you go down the path. You've got then an area that's kind of like enchanted animals, so like Pegasus and unicorns, and there's a big carriage there, kind of Cinderella-ish type of a carriage that you can take pictures with. Now they've got the model train area, which seems to be larger than it was last time we were here. It's a massive model train. I'm a huge model train fan. I love checking those out wherever we go. And it takes up a lot of territory, and they have it running at night too. And it's fascinating to look at all of these little houses and businesses and the little figures in there and the lit up trains and all
there
of that.
Was a guy who was kind of like lighting up some of the train areas, so I wouldn't be surprised if that area looks even better by tomorrow. Like they'll add more lights to it, because there were a few lights,
dark areas,
a few lights on the some of the trains and stuff, but it wasn't all lit specifically for nights. But as I said, there was a guy in there who was adding some lights and stuff, so I'd imagine by tomorrow it'll be even more impressive looking for the nighttime show, I guess, of the model trains.
Yeah, and then you continue past that. You've got and there's so many buffer areas too, where it's like, oh, there's just these little scenes, but I'm kind of talking like big thematic areas. But you've got this area filled with Chinese dragons. You've got a whole walkway that has all of the lunar calendar. So you've got here's I'm Year of the Dragon, and it gives you the breakdown of what it is, plus a big lantern that you can kind of take a picture of with the actual dragon and things like that. And then past it was another few dragons, and the massive one we talked about it's got to be at least 25 feet tall.
That was very impressive.
Yeah.
That was really tall. And then basically the tail kind of forms like an archway that you kind of walk down, so you're kind of walking in between the tail sort of thing. So very impressive, really cool stuff, and a lot more, like I said, than I was expecting, even in regards to just the lantern section of things. I mean, just really cool.
And you've got the big pathway there with kind of, I don't know what you think of traditional Lion King type characters, but it's this giant lit pathway with flowers on the sides, and then constantly has these arcs that alternate between arches, between elephants and giraffe, and they're kind of the heads of the characters looking down on you. Lions, baboon, all of those. Then you got to the end of that, you have these life-size giraffe lanterns. There was then there was the panda ones prior to that, before you got the dragons.
With the Lion King, there was one display that was very large as well, and I don't know if it was actually Simba on the
it was the Simba on the rock kind of look,
exactly, kind of overlooking the land or whatever, but that was really big, and it had the big lion at the top, which, like I said, looked like Simba, or as an adult when he comes back, type of thing. And so many
cool
people talking about Lion King. It's like, I don't know if they were technically Lion King, but it had that look, so that was really cool.
And then again, all the areas, or most of the areas, have some sort of light music to, and it depends. It could be party music too, but it's just music that kind of fits thematically whatever area you're in there. I love there's part Gecko Gulch, which kind of led more to a kids playground area, and the carousel, which was active for tonight. But you went through the giant head of it's probably about a 7-foot tall jaw of a gator that you walked through. The flamingo walkway with huge flamingo archways there all around. You can feel the wind picking up here. And then that kind of brings us back to where we are over here, which again was a path. There's all the iguanas and the various reptiles. I mean, so many things in the lanterns, and that was something I wasn't sure coming out here. Like, there's definitely a lot of lanterns that are very representative of the creatures of the desert, but there's also other cultural things, whether it's in the dragons or, looking at just even animals. Like, to my knowledge, they don't have flamingos here, but there's a whole flamingo archway. It's got just a lot of beautiful art installations that celebrate, animals, wildlife, and obviously even some mythical creatures with the Pegasus and things like that. So, I said, it reminds me a lot of like a Christmas type event. We've been to a lot of different events where you're walking through a place and seeing all sorts of beautiful images while music plays in the background, and it's very nice and kind of relaxing. And I think almost sometimes take it a little for granted during the Christmas season, because it's so many things are that. Christmas is generally very static, unlike Halloween where everything's coming at you. Christmas is a lot of like walk, look, or drive, look, and just look. This is like that, which fits to me so well when you put it as a contrast right now to something like a DCA Food and Wine Festival or a Boysenberry Festival, which we love these events, these other spring, food and wine type events that pretty much every park has almost some version of. Not literally all of them, but a lot of them. And this is like the opposite of that. This is more back in that Christmas mode where there is food available, but things aren't so crazy busy. It's just kind of a place to come and look, and and so although you're not going to have any big tasting events here and wine tasting stuff like that, and
but they do sell alcohol here, so that is your thing. I don't know what kind of alcohol, because we don't drink, but there's definitely alcohol available for purchase here as well.
But there's lots of really cool things to see. So in the end, it's been a really nice night. I wish that as we're getting to the end of the recording here, we're running out of time for the event to close. We're also running out of time for us to need to head back home, but I wish we had a couple more hours here, because it's just the kind of place you just want to sit and take it in. And you would notice there's just so many benches throughout too that you can just sit and look at things and listen, and it's just super chill, and I love it.
Just just an FYI, if you do come out, it is a pretty casual event. Like, there are some people who are dressed a little nicer, but the majority of people are kind of in their, theme park, comfortable attire.
Shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah, shorts, t-shirts, comfortable shoes and stuff. And do wear comfortable shoes, because there is a decent amount of walking and stuff. But yeah, definitely kudos to the Living Desert team, and then the other organization that they're working with to put this together, because it was so much more than I was expecting, and pleasantly surprised by all the experience and the whole environment. There were a couple things, or the couple comments I wanted to mention that I overheard someone. So I overheard one family that was talking, and the mother of the group was like, "Wow, this place, they had so many great moments tonight. This is definitely a night that we're going to remember, guys." And so they were definitely enjoying themselves. And then there was another comment I overheard. I should have written it down. But yeah, people just have been enjoying themselves and taking lots of photos, and it's just been this really fun, relaxed environment. It's been really, really more than I was expecting at all. And so, it for us in Riverside, it was without traffic, I think it's about an hour 15 to get out here. So if you're out in LA, it is going to be a drive. But there are the dinosaurs over in Cabazon that are on the way. So if you want to stop and check out the dinosaurs, there's lots of restaurants out here. Palm Springs is
Las Casuelas is one of our favorites out here.
Yeah, and so we saw advertisements for that. We haven't eaten there in a really long time, but yeah, definitely Las Casuelas is a restaurant we've loved in the past, and Palm Springs isn't too far from here. So there are things that you can do out here, and kind of if you wanted to head out and make a longer day of it, or if you want to just come out at night. I mean, fortunately or hopefully, traffic won't be too bad, because we'll be leaving closer to 10 and stuff, so the traffic will probably be less of an issue as it gets later in the evening. So it's obviously depends on your situation, but at $20 a ticket on the non-weekend days, and even the $25 on the weekend, it's, I think, definitely worth the trip out and stuff. So I don't regret at all the hour, 15 hour and a half drive that we had on the way out here. So definitely a cool experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more than I think most people would think it would be. More than I would think, just because having been to so many lighting events, lantern events, etc. They're usually a bit smaller than this, and this one's really got a big footprint. And then when you add in the access to the habitat areas, it's a lot. It's a really nice little event that they put together here, and I'm excited about it. I'm glad that we were able to cover it. It was fun covering something out here and seeing all this. So I'm glad we were able to get it out here. So
and there are casinos out this way too. So
Right.
obviously that's another thing that if you're into. There's different casinos you can do out this way or visit as well. So there's definitely stuff to do out here, and
Lots of stuff.
so yeah, you can, definitely make the most of your time if you come out this way.
Yeah. So with that, we will go ahead and wrap up this episode. Before we get to the end here, let's hit the calendar. We've got WonderCon coming up here April 1st through the 3rd. The Hollywood Show, April 15th through the 16th. Sticker Expo, also that same weekend, the 15th. Actually, it's 16th and 17th in that case. San Diego Comic Fest, April 21st to the 24th. Spooky Swap Meet, April 29th through May 1st. Fangia, April 30th. SoCal Joe Show, May 1st. Free Comic Book Day, May 7th, as we make our way into May. Lots of fun stuff coming up there. Please, if you are watching the video, and even if you're not watching the video, maybe head over and watch the video real quick and give us a like. We appreciate that. Subscriptions, obviously appreciated, and just sharing wherever you can on social media is greatly appreciated. If you're not a member of our Parks and Cons crew, you can check us out on Patreon there for bonus content over there as well. You can follow along with us on social media in real time at Parks and Cons on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. Wrapping up at the Living Desert. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.